Plants that will take over your garden. That beautiful vine you just bought at the garden center could destroy your entire yard in just one season. I'm Sam from Seniors Gardening Advice, and I'm about to share the biggest gardening mistakes that cost me years of hard work and thousands of dollars in damage. These innocent-looking plants turned into absolute monsters that I'm still fighting to this day. If you're planning your garden or thinking about adding new plants, you need to hear this before you make the same costly mistakes I did. And if this saves you from even one gardening disaster, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. It really helps our channel reach more gardeners who need this advice. Let me tell you about the plants that will make you question every gardening decision you've ever made. These aren't your typical garden failures. These are plants that seem perfect at first, but become your worst nightmare. Plant number 1, the vine that ate my neighbor's yard. Russian vine takes the top spot on my list of garden villains, and for good reason. This plant goes by several names: mile-a-minute vine, fleece flower, or silver lace vine, but whatever you call it, the result is the same: complete garden domination. At my previous home, my neighbor thought they were being clever by planting this fast-growing climber to quickly cover an ugly fence. Within months, this aggressive monster had jumped the property line and was strangling my prized lilac bush. The vine grows so incredibly fast that you can almost watch it spreading in real time during the growing season. We spent entire weekends trying to control this beast. I'd climb ladders, pull vine after vine, and think I'd made progress, only to find twice as much growth the following week. The most frustrating part was watching my beautiful mature lilac tree slowly disappear under layers of Russian vine. Despite our constant efforts, we eventually lost that tree completely. The truly maddening part? This plant is still sold in garden centers across the country. Those innocent-looking white flowers and heart-shaped leaves might seem charming in a pot, but don't be fooled. This plant can grow up to 40 feet in a single season and will cover everything in its path: fences, trees, buildings, and anything else that gets in its way. The root system is equally aggressive, sending out underground runners that pop up dozens of feet away from the original plant. Even when you think you've removed every trace, new shoots will appear for years afterward. Trust me when I say this: avoid Russian vine completely, no matter how tempting that quick coverage might seem. Plant number 2, bamboo. Beautiful, but unstoppable. Bamboo might look like the perfect solution for privacy screening or adding an exotic touch to your landscape. Many varieties are absolutely stunning, with graceful canes and rustling leaves that create a peaceful, zen-like atmosphere. The problem is that most bamboo varieties are running types, meaning they spread through underground rhizomes that can travel surprising distances. In my last garden, we planted what we thought was a small clump of bamboo near our patio area. The garden center assured us it would stay contained, but within 2 years, new bamboo shoots were popping up throughout our lawn, in flower beds, and even pushing through cracks in our concrete walkway. Removing established bamboo is incredibly difficult and expensive. The rhizome system can extend 20 feet or more from the original planting site, and every small piece left behind will sprout new growth. We tried everything: digging, cutting, herbicides, but those stubborn shoots kept appearing season after season. When we moved to our current property, we discovered that the previous owners had planted bamboo here too, and were still dealing with random shoots emerging in unexpected places. It's like a never-ending game of whack-a-mole, except the moles keep multiplying. If you absolutely must have bamboo in your garden, stick to clumping varieties instead of running types. Clumping bamboo grows in tight clusters and doesn't send out those aggressive underground runners. Some good clumping varieties include fountain bamboo and Buddha's belly bamboo. Even with clumping types, consider planting them in large containers or installing root barriers to be completely safe. Plant number 3. Ground covers that take over everything. Let me talk about mint for a moment, one of the most deceptive plants in the gardening world. Everyone loves mint. The fragrance is intoxicating, the culinary uses are endless, and the varieties available are amazing. We have apple mint, chocolate mint, pineapple mint, and dozens of other flavors that sound too good to resist. But here's what the garden centers don't tell you. Mint is basically a legal weed. Plant any mint variety directly in your garden bed, and within one season, it will have spread throughout the entire area. Mint spreads through underground runners called stolons, and these runners have no respect for property lines, other plants, or your carefully planned garden design. I learned this lesson the hard way when I planted a small pot of spearmint in my herb garden. By the end of that first summer, mint had invaded my entire vegetable patch, choking out tomatoes, overwhelming basil plants, and sending runners into the neighboring lawn. The scent was wonderful, but the aggressive takeover was anything but. The smart way to grow mint is always in containers. Use large pots with drainage holes and place them on patios, decks, or anywhere you can easily monitor their growth. Even in containers, mint will try to escape through drainage holes or send runners into neighboring pots, so stay vigilant. If you want mint in a garden bed, sink a large pot directly into the soil with the rim slightly above ground level. This underground container method gives you the look of planted mint while keeping the roots contained. Check regularly to make sure runners aren't escaping over the pot rim. Plant number 4, the strawberry invasion. Strawberries seem like such innocent plants. They're recommended for beginning gardeners, children's gardens, and small spaces. The promise of homegrown berries is irresistible, and initially everything seems perfect. Then the runners start. Strawberry plants reproduce through runners, long stems that stretch across the ground and create new plants wherever they touch soil. One strawberry plant can produce dozens of runners in a single season, and each new plant can produce its own runners. The math gets overwhelming quickly. When we moved to our current property, we inherited a raised bed that had been planted with strawberries several years earlier. What started as a neat row of plants had become a solid mat of strawberry foliage covering the entire 4-by-8-foot bed. There wasn't room for anything else. No herbs, no vegetables, nothing but strawberries. Removing established strawberry plants is more work than you might expect. The root systems become intertwined, and missed pieces will regrow quickly. We spent days digging out that bed, and we're still finding volunteer strawberry plants popping up in unexpected places. The solution is growing strawberries in containers, hanging baskets, or dedicated strawberry towers. This gives you complete control over their spread while making harvesting easier. Even in containers, watch for runners trying to root in neighboring pots or spilling onto the ground below. Plant number 5. Climbers that won't stop climbing. Clematis montana might be one of the most beautiful flowering vines you can grow. When it blooms in late spring, the entire plant disappears under masses of small white or pink flowers that smell like vanilla and attract pollinators from miles around. The display is truly spectacular and can transform any fence, arbor, or trellis into a show-stopping garden feature. The problem with Clematis montana is that it doesn't know when to stop. This vigorous climber can grow 20 to 30 feet in a single season and will attach itself to anything within reach. Trees, buildings, neighboring plants, garden structures, nothing is off-limits. In our front garden, we have a mature Clematis montana that we inherited from the previous owners. When it's in bloom, we get compliments from every passerby. But maintaining this beauty requires constant vigilance. Without regular pruning and training, it would quickly overwhelm our entire front yard. The vine sends out fast-growing shoots in all directions, and these shoots have tiny tendrils that grab onto anything they encounter.
Once established on a surface, clematis can be difficult to remove without damaging whatever it's growing on. We've learned to check our clematis weekly during the growing season and redirect or remove wayward growth before it becomes established. If you choose to grow Clematis montana, give it plenty of space and a strong support structure. Plan to spend time each week during the growing season managing its growth, and don't plant it anywhere near delicate plants or structures that could be damaged by its aggressive nature.
Plant number 6. English ivy. English ivy presents similar challenges, but with an added complication. It can damage buildings. This classic climber looks wonderful on old stone walls and gives gardens that romantic, established feeling that many gardeners crave. The evergreen foliage provides year-round interest, and the plant requires very little care once established. The problems start when ivy gets too close to houses or other structures. The tiny rootlets that helped ivy cling to surfaces can work their way into mortar joints, eventually causing structural damage. Removing well-established ivy often means dealing with stubborn rootlets that leave permanent marks on walls and can pull off paint, stucco, or even pieces of brick. We had extensive ivy coverage on a garden wall at our previous property, and it looked beautiful until we decided to remove it. What should have been a simple pruning job turned into a major restoration project when the ivy pulled chunks of mortar with it as we tried to clear the wall. Enjoy ivy on stone walls, old fences, or other sturdy surfaces where some surface damage wouldn't be catastrophic. Keep it well away from your house and trim it regularly to prevent it from getting too heavy or established. Plant number 7. Perennial spreaders that never quit. Japanese anemones are among the most elegant perennial flowers you can grow. These late-season bloomers produce delicate, papery flowers in shades of pink and white just when most other perennials are finishing for the year. The blooms dance on tall stems above attractive foliage, and pollinators absolutely love them. The elegance is deceptive, though. Japanese anemones spread aggressively through underground runners and can quickly take over large areas. In a spacious garden where you want masses of late-season color, this spreading habit might be welcome. But in smaller gardens or mixed perennial beds, Japanese anemones can crowd out other plants and upset carefully planned color schemes. These plants are also incredibly difficult to remove once established. The root system runs deep and spreads wide, and any pieces left behind will generate new plants. Trying to contain Japanese anemones requires constant vigilance and regular root pruning. If you love Japanese anemones but worry about their spreading habit, consider growing them in a dedicated area where they can naturalize freely, or install deep root barriers to contain their growth. Some gardeners successfully grow them in large buried containers, though this requires more maintenance.
Plant number 8. Bistor. Bistor is another perennial spreader that many gardeners encounter without realizing what they're dealing with. When we first moved to our current property, we found large clumps of unfamiliar leafy growth scattered throughout the garden. The plants looked harmless enough, broad leaves and an overall tidy appearance, but their distribution pattern suggested aggressive spreading. When the plants finally bloomed, producing distinctive bottle brush flowers in pink or white, we were able to identify them as Bistor. Further research revealed that Bistor spreads both through underground rhizomes and by seed, which explained how it had colonized so much of our garden. Bistor isn't the most destructive invasive plant. It's relatively easy to pull when the soil is moist, and it doesn't seem to completely crowd out other plants. The flowers are attractive and provide nectar for pollinators, but it can quickly become the dominant plant in any area where it's allowed to spread freely. We've decided to manage our Bistor rather than eliminate it completely. In wild areas where we want to encourage biodiversity, we let some patches remain. In more formal garden beds, we remove it regularly to make room for other plants. The key is staying on top of it before it becomes completely established.
Plant number 9. Fast-growing hedges that become monsters. Leeland cypress seems like the perfect solution for anyone who needs privacy screening or windbreaks quickly.
This fast-growing evergreen can shoot up several feet per year, creating dense coverage in just a few seasons. Garden centers promote it heavily for instant hedging, and the initial results can be impressive. The problem becomes apparent after a few years when your manageable hedge has become a towering wall of dark green foliage. Leeland cypress doesn't just grow tall, it grows wide, creating dense shade that kills everything underneath and nearby. The rapid growth means you'll be trimming constantly just to keep the hedge at a reasonable size. Once Leeland cypress gets large, maintenance becomes a major undertaking. Professional trimming can be expensive, and DIY maintenance can be dangerous when you're dealing with tall, heavy growth. Let the trimming slide for even one season, and you'll have an enormous job ahead of you. The dense growth and rapid size increase also create problems during storms. Large Leeland cypress hedges can catch wind like sails, and the shallow root systems may not be able to support the top-heavy growth. We've seen entire hedge sections blow over during storms, creating expensive cleanup and replacement costs. For hedging, consider slower-growing alternatives like western red cedar, which has similar appearance but much more manageable growth rates. Yew is another excellent choice that can be maintained at almost any size with regular trimming.
Plant number 10. Vegetables that spread like weeds. Jerusalem artichokes might be the most deceptive vegetable crop you can plant. These relatives of sunflowers produce cheerful yellow blooms on tall stalks and developed edible tubers underground. The plants look innocent enough, and the promise of homegrown sunchokes, another name for Jerusalem artichokes, can be tempting for vegetable gardeners. The problem lies in those underground tubers. Jerusalem artichokes reproduce through their root system, and even tiny pieces left in the soil will generate new plants. What starts as a small patch can become a permanent colony that spreads throughout your garden year after year. We've heard countless stories from gardeners who planted Jerusalem artichokes once and are still dealing with volunteer plants decades later. The tubers can survive harsh winters and will regrow from incredible depths. Even careful digging rarely removes every piece, and missed fragments ensure continued sprouting. If you want to try Jerusalem artichokes, consider growing them in large containers or a dedicated area where their spreading won't cause problems. Some gardeners plant them in isolated beds surrounded by lawn, where spreading tubers are easier to spot and remove.
The lesson from all these plants is simple. Research before you plant, and be honest about how much maintenance you're willing to do. Some of these plants can work in the right situations with proper management, but others are best avoided entirely. If this video has helped you avoid a gardening disaster, I'd really appreciate it if you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Seniors Gardening Advice for more practical gardening tips. Share this with any gardening friends who might benefit from these warnings. We gardeners need to look out for each other. What plants have caused you the biggest problems in your garden? Drop a comment below and share your stories. Your experiences might save other gardeners from making the same mistakes. We're always learning from each other, and every gardening disaster story helps build our collective wisdom. Remember, gardening should bring joy, not stress. Choose your plants wisely, plan for their mature size and spreading habits, and don't be afraid to remove plants that aren't working for your space. Your garden should work for you, not against you. Next week, we'll be talking about the best low-maintenance plants for senior gardeners. Plants that give you maximum beauty with minimum effort. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that valuable information. Until then, keep growing, keep learning, and remember that every gardening mistake is just a lesson in disguise. Happy gardening from all of us at Seniors Gardening Advice.